And I forgot to load Friday, so Fridays and today's will get loaded up here today. So there'll be a couple of Zoom call or a couple of YouTube videos to catch up on. So we are going to talk today about trend and how KILLSHOT, the indicator, shows trend, and then how we can add pieces to identify trend and switches, especially trend switches in the market. Right. So the first thing we do to establish trend is come to the 15-minute chart. Now, how we establish trend, and we know we do this every morning, right? We write trend is down, and trend is down right now. I don't think it's going to stay for long. This is our POC from Friday. I don't think this will stay as a downtrend for very long. And how we establish trend is with our EMAs. Okay. So we're going to talk more this week about establishing trend, how to identify it, and we're going to talk more about these EMAs this week. Okay. So our EMAs, we have one. When we've talked about this before, we have a red EMA, which is the 20 EMA. Okay. Which means that it is the price or moving average, which is the MA part of EMA, exponential moving average, is the average of the last 20 candles on your chart. Okay. The blue EMA or aqua, as lots of people are known it, that's another strategy that lots of people have done, is essentially the price of the last 50 candles on the chart. This is the price average. That's what this line means. Okay. And how we establish trend, and this is the identification of trend with the indicator, is that when they cross, that means the price average of the last 50 candles and the price average of the last 20 candles change direction. Which when these things cross are going to indicate that there's a short-term trend shift. Okay. Could be longer. Okay. It just letting you know that this trend has shifted. And we're only looking to get into a small movement in these shifts. Okay, shift came, right? And this is when we're going to look to try and enter the market. Okay, get our goal and get out. Okay, so right now you can see this on a downtrend. This probably won't last long. And the reason I say that is both these EMAs are running flat, which means that this is accumulating some volume to pick a direction, whatever direction that might be, and whatever direction it wants to go. Okay, so when we see these cross, the red cross over the blue, the trend is shifting to up. Okay, the red cross over the blue, the red is above the blue, we're shifting to up. Red cross over the blue, red below the blue, shifting to down. Now, you can see this was in a pretty heavy resistance area when this shifted and has bounced off it. Okay, that's our first indicator that the trend wants to shift. Now I'm going to go over some other indications that you want to look for when the trend shifts. Okay, and for some people on this call, it'll be fairly basic stuff, but we're going to talk a little bit more. And the reason I want to talk more about it is because I want to talk a little bit about, we're going to transition into counter trend trades, okay, in the one, right? So what we do is we come in here, we establish our trend on the 15, okay? Then we want to go back to the one, and we want to look for trades that are on that same trend, right? The trend is our friend. Everybody remember that. If that is a mantra that you need to put up on the wall, you need to know what it is. You need to remind yourself to stay on that trend. Now, here's the thing. We talk about counter trend trading a lot. And lots of people are like, wow, that's a counter trend. We shouldn't have taken that, blah, blah, blah. And that's true. And the reason counter trend trades, we talk about not taking counter trend trades, is because they are more risky. Now, that doesn't mean they can't pay off. That doesn't mean there isn't an ability to get pips there. That is just, I am trying to teach you the safest way to get pips in this market with this indicator. And counter trend trading is not safe. Okay, it's riskier. And I'm not saying you can't get some pips out of it, because you can, but it is riskier. And I'm going to show you how to identify a little bit better if it is a counter trend or if the trend wants to shift, so you understand when you see that. I'm going to go over a few things that happen here when you're like, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened. This is sure looks like this trend is going to shift in the short term. Okay. So we actually had a pretty good example of this just happen, right? We were on a little bit of a come out of London, right? Sunday opened, started this downtrend. We came out of London, headed down. Okay, and then we had this accumulation. We also had something else happen that we talked about last week, right? What did we have happen here that we talked about last week? What type of bottom? It's a little bit more than that, but double. So we had this support area. Okay. So the first thing we're going to look for on this chart, if we're like, okay, I'm going to just take this years ago. Okay. That would have been another kind of help. But what you're going to look for if this trend wants to shift, like if you are getting into this sell, okay, and this trend wants to shift, okay, what we want to look for is a little area like this. Okay, and so this little area here, we're going to call this, okay, we're going to call this an accumulation area. Okay, so we have an accumulation area. Okay, now obviously this is in the one, and these things can, this is only kind of the first part of it. We're not just going to jump into a trade because of an accumulation area, but this is where we're accumulating some volume, right? And here's the thing, you already had this 1, 2, this is your third bottom, and then it goes up and down and up and down and up and down. Now in this movement, what do you think it's doing in this up and down in these candles? And we just talked about accumulation area, so what do you think it's accumulating? 100%, Alyssa. It's collecting, getting people to think, building volume, pulling money into the market. In order for this to move from here to here, there has to be money in it, right? There has to be money to accept these buy orders so you can move it. Now, the one thing I notice here, and usually when I'm like, okay, this thing looks like it might want to get ready to reverse, is that pushes right back up, comes right back down, pushes right up, comes right back down, pushes up, right back down, but it doesn't break this area. Right? So it doesn't break this area. Now, if I'm like, okay, if I am looking to maybe potentially grab this thing on the way up, okay, I want to see it break out of this. Okay, so this is accumulating volume, pulling this volume into this market before either it continues to head down, and we want to see how it comes out of this area, right? Because this thing could very well come up here and bounce and head down, right? Not necessarily head up like it did. Okay, we want to see how it comes out of this area first. We're not going to jump into a trade in this area because it hasn't given us an idea of what direction it wants to go yet. Okay, so we want to see how it's going to come out of this little accumulation area. However it comes out of this accumulation area is where that trend is going to want to head. Okay, whether it wants to stay on trend. Most of the time when you see a market doing this up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down and not continuing on that trend, okay, and not continuing on that trend, like look at how many opportunities it had to continue on this trend. If it starts to do this, usually indicates that it's going to want to have a little short-term reversal. Okay, this is usually going to indicate that it's going to have a short-term reversal. Okay, so now it's going to come out of this accumulation area. Oops, I just want to take this one off because it goes the other direction. Okay, essentially, we'll show you, Cinda. We'll go through all this stuff. Everybody have some patience. Yes, it's the same thing as consolidation. That's what's happening in consolidation. That's why the market consolidates out, is because it's trying to accumulate volume before it decides what direction it wants to go. Okay, so the first thing that's going to that it's going to show me. Okay, the first thing that it's going to show me is that it breaks this accumulation area. Okay, so when I'm watching this thing, breaks this accumulation area, right? This is going to play this line, right? Breaks this accumulation area. Okay. Okay, breaks out of this accumulation area and then pulls back right to the top of it. Okay, so this is the move that's going to establish the trend for me. Obviously, there's more pieces of this thing, and we can see that it continues to head up, but you have your accumulation area. It then pushes out and breaks, has enough volume and strength to break up out of this area, then retest back to this. Now, the signal, of course, would have been fine, right? We could have put a 25 pip stop and a 50 pip TP on here. We wouldn't have had to wait out pullback. The signal would have been fine after coming out of this accumulation area. This signal would have been money, right? Your 25 pip stop all the way back down to this support area, and you had almost 50 on the board. Pretty close. Just missed it. 1 to 2. Okay, just to show you that. Okay, but here's where we're going to establish that this trend wants to shift short term. Okay, it pushes up out of this accumulation area, comes back down to the top of this, and what does it set here? Okay, it sets this in this, right? These two little candles here. There's a couple of things that happens. First, it comes all the way back to that resistance area where it had to break out of that accumulation zone. Comes all the way back to test it. Okay, pulling some more of that sell volume out of it. Then it creates, right? Right there it creates, and right there it creates a higher low. So coming up and out of this, okay. Okay, it comes up and out of this accumulation area, pulls a bunch of volume in, shoots out. We get a nice signal, which this signal would have paid. Okay. It comes back down and tests the top of this accumulation area. And then what does this candle do? It comes down, hits this accumulation, the top of this accumulation area, goes straight up and engulfs both these candles and gets back above these EMAs. Okay, so this is indicating that this wants to head back up. And then what does it do? It comes all the way back up, right? We get our pullback back down to this higher low, pushes, oop, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, pushes, engulfs, pushes up to this resistance level. Okay, and then retests to what over here now? And what do we have here again? We have another higher low. So now this has broken out of this. This is accumulated volume. It's broken out of that box. Okay, has set a higher low, has pushed all the way up to the next resistance level, which if you're watching this, you should expect, right? So if you got into this here, I mean, this could have been a little 30 pip TP. You should expect it to reverse here because this is going to be, this is also going to be a breakout, right? Okay. This is also going to be a breakout. This is where this is going to break out of this chart. Once it breaks this level, it's going to break out of this chart, right? So it creates another higher low, pushes right up, right? So another higher low, right? Pushes right up and breaks what? What does it do here? It breaks our 238. Okay. Breaks our 238, pulls back, right? Pulls back to the 238 and creates what? Okay, creates another higher low. Right? Creates another higher low, comes back, retests to the, trying to retest back to this 238, flashes below it, and then back up we go again. And you can see how this continues up till it wants to reverse. The 238 is the 50, the aqua on the 5. Okay, higher low, higher low, higher low. For me, I mean, this signal was awesome. We could have taken it back to the 238. This break and push up, right, is another place to enter. It creates another what? Here. And as you can see, every time it creates one of these higher lows and wants to head back up, it's just reestablishing this trend. Right? Something else happens right here, which would indicate that it does want to push back up if it starts to go. What happens right here? We have this beautiful green star that also indicates if we were still in this buy that we could continue to hold it. Okay. We'll talk about that once we get through the recording here. It establishes another higher low. Okay. And then pushes up again, staying on that trend. Okay. And we still had some, and you could have taken it back to this 238. But yes, you could have waited for it to break this 238. And then there was still 30 or so pips on that 238, at least back to a break even, taking 20, 30 pips out of there. Okay. But look at how many higher lows. 1, 2, 3, 4 higher lows. And then what happens here? This might have been a bit of an indication to try and get out of this thing once it reversed here with this big red star. And then you can see that you got a green star shortly after, push back up. Right, you got another little higher low in here. So I'm just establishing trend, guys. I'm not going over this. I'm showing you how to understand that a trend has established itself. Okay. The trend has established itself in this short term. Right, you have multiple higher lows. So remember, it comes down. This was a double bottom as well, comes down into this accumulation area, right? Pulls in a whole bunch of volume, breaks that accumulation area, has an immediate retest back to the top of it. Now, once this push back up here, now you know that it's established some trend. It's starting to establish this trend and wants to head out. You can just see higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. So if you're ever, looking to maybe, or you're like, oh, counter trend, yada, yada, those trades, if this thing starts to establish a trend, this is how you identify it, right? Pushes up to that resistance level, pulls back, pushes through the 238, pulls back. Okay. Seeing these things as they come are going to help you to understand, like, okay, this has started to shift its trend. And in this little trend is our goal for the day, right? From here to here, our goal for the day and some, gets to almost 50 pips, and misses by like 2 pips up there. But easily 30 to 40 pips out of this if you're trapping this thing. So the one way you would do it, right? If say we got into this trade, and the one way you would do it, right? Say you got into it there, right? Say your TP is up here. You can see that I would just miss that. But what you would do is after you entered this, pulled back down to the top of that, and once it got back above it and broke out, you're going to move your stop, right? So your stop loss would start here. Up you go, you're protected. Right now you can leave that thing, see if it's going to hit your TP, or when it starts to establish these higher lows, right? It comes back down, bounces, establishes this higher low back up to the 238. You just move that up a little bit to that higher low. Then when it bounces off the 238, gets above it, you move that up to your higher low. Right? Protecting this as it goes. following it on its trend, letting it pull back, giving it space to have its pull back before it heads back up. Okay. The candle is not red. The candle is blue. No, because my TP should be 1 to 2. Okay, so this is our higher low, higher low, higher low. This is how you would establish this on an uptrend. Okay, now let's go and see if we can find a place. Okay, well, we can see where a downtrend starts. Can actually show you how this thing shifts. It shifts pretty quickly here, but how it shifts and breaks and wants to switch trend, right? So you have this space up here. I'm not going to work that well. You have a little bit of accumulation area here after you're breaking your uptrend, right? You have your short little uptrend. Remember, these trends are going to be very short, right? And then you have another accumulation area right here, right? Pushes up, breaks through, starts to accumulate. Comes down to the 238, back to the top, comes back down to the 238, back to the top. So this is accumulating volume again, right? And the one thing you'll notice, this was one of your higher lows, but this actually broke that, right? So it's broken through this, and now wants to accumulate some volume before it wants to switch trend and head down. Okay, coming out of that. So you can see the accumulation. You're getting this downtrend happens fairly quickly. As you can see, you're just getting little pushes in here, but lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, green star, then it wants to reverse, right? So you can see as it switches, this is not as established as the uptrend was, breaks through here, breaks through this support, right? And your little accumulation zone. And then you have a lower high, right? Okay, then you have a lower high right here, right there. As it's breaking through this support, you have a lower high right here, then you have another one right there. And this one's happening a bit quicker than the buy trend. But right, this is happening quicker, and the EMAs cross and indicate that this wants to switch trend while in the middle of this, while it's accumulating volume the other way, right? So you have your 1, 2, 3, down we go. Okay. It's not always the case, but yes, that can definitely happen, Brian. Okay, so you have a lower high, you have another lower high, right? Pushes back up, another lower high, down it goes. This is the same type of trade. So this one was a blue candle. So this is where you would have waited that pullback out before you entered it. And then there was only about 20, 30 pips on the board there, but still pips on the board. Okay, in the same type of movement, right? Where it breaks out. I'm going to take that guy off and just show you guys a little bit more. Okay, right, where it breaks out, pushes up here, breaks out, and then you have a little lower high there, right? Breaks out, a little lower high there, breaks down, lower high there, and then down to your green star, which is your indication that this wants to reverse. Okay. So this is how you can see and how you take a look, higher low, higher low, higher low. These are the indications, right? You have your accumulation. Like I said before, you had multiple bottoms, accumulation area, which means this wants to accumulate volume instead of just continuing to head in that same direction. Breaks up and out, creates a higher low, breaks up to the next resistance level, creates a higher low, breaks through the 238, which is also breaks to another resistance level right there, back to the 238, creates another higher low, and this, so on and so forth, right? As you can see, that's how it's establishing this trend. Okay. And then you can see when it comes out of this accumulation area after hitting this, coming here, breaking this higher low that you had in here, back to that 238, and starts to accumulate volume in here before it then decides to head back down. Okay, that's how you establish trend. You're looking for these areas of accumulation that look like, instead of falling and continuing on that trend, right, are going to accumulate and push back out. Okay, this higher low right here, for me, I got into that signal, this higher low would have been like, okay, I'm on the right direction. Let's let this trade play out. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop recording and then I can answer all these questions.